Hi, and thanks for joining the SJ Child Show. The SJ Child Show brings value to families through education and resources. But the SJ Child Show isn't just about me, it's about us as a community. Join me as we help educate and support our community, help bring kindness and love and inclusion to all. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. I really appreciate all the support from all of the viewers and listeners, and I just want to let you know I want you to join me on this journey. Come and follow my social media, and let's do this together. Enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the SJ Child Show. I'm your host, SJ Childs, and today I have a really great guest, Rachel Coleman, who some of you may know, and once we get started talking, I'm sure all of you will remember. So let's jump right in. Hi, Rachel. Thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Absolutely. My schedule's been so open for the last 2 years. So.
Yeah, right. Here and there, stuck inside. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's so nice to have you here. And, from folks that don't know, most people I have on my show are brand new. I've never met them. And so it's a great time to make this new friendship with someone. But I'm so lucky. I've known you we were just talking 13 years now.
13 years.
We haven't caught up for quite some time. So so excited to talk about things that have happened, changed, and are coming. So yes, let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself.
So I am Rachel Coleman. I am the creator and the host of Signing Time, which you maybe had VHS copies of or DVDs or saw on PBS or Nick Jr. over the last 20 plus years, 21 years, 22 years. And now it's, you can still watch it. We have a streaming service called mysigningtime.com, and all of our shows are there. I've written over 200 songs in the last 20 years and been helping families communicate through sign language for a really long time.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't imagine how many millions of families that you have touched and have brought communication and a form of way to interact with their child, a way to help their child, and not only for the deaf community, but also for so many other learning disabilities, neurodiversities, but also just for fun, right? Just for little kids that have that desire to learn so early and want to communicate.
Yeah. I mean, babies can sign as early as 9 months, and we've seen earlier. And so there's just, it's a solid parenting tool to have for your kids to eliminate and alleviate some of those tantrums. And then for those of us who have special kids, sometimes it is the access to communication, especially right up front. And sometimes forever,
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the show when it got started and kind of how that all came to be.
I was living in California at the time. And again, I was 26. I'm 47. Who knew? When Signing Time kind of took off, people would say, what do you think it's going to look like in 5 years? And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be doing this for 5 years. Like, this is kind of this fluke thing that's just happening, right? So I don't know. When it started, I had moved to LA. My sister Emily lived there, and I went to visit her. And I was doing Pampered Chef parties for real. So I went to visit Emily, and in her apartment complex, you'd go up this set of stairs, and her door was over here, and there was another door here, and this one was for rent. And we had Liam at the time was 2, and I was like, we should move in. And we lived in Utah, and my husband Aaron had just graduated from the University of Utah in Parks, Rec and Tourism. And I was singing in a band and selling Pampered Chef. I mean, I had a Cheesecake of the Month club. Like, I just was scrappy and doing stuff. But yeah, I came home and I said, Aaron, there's an apartment next door to Emily. We should totally move there. And Emily had just had Alex. So
Okay.
So no job, nothing other than an apartment. We load up and we moved to California. Oh my gosh, with a deaf toddler, which I'm thinking Los Angeles, they're going to have all the resources. It was horrible. We should have stayed here. We could have moved to an island and it would have been better than So that is how we ended up in California. A couple of years later, Lucy was born with spina bifida, cerebral palsy. And so I was carrying Lucy around in a sling all the time and, sorting out Liam's education because, Liam had tested out of special ed because they had so much language, but they're clearly profoundly deaf. So ended up just noticing as Liam went from 2 to 3 to 4 that the social interactions were disappearing, but not from Liam's side of things. Like friends, family members wouldn't invite Liam to come over or to birthday parties. They were just like, well, how will I know if they need to use the bathroom? And I'm like, there too. Like, how do you know how, it's so bizarre. And I just noticed more and more Liam being isolated, or we'd be at the park and a kid would come up to Liam and, at 2, it doesn't matter. 3, if kids can't communicate, it gets weirder, right? For other kids. 4, definitely. So they'd come up to Liam and be like, ask him something. And Liam would turn to me and say, Bobby, what'd they say? And I was like, oh, and I would sign it. And then they'd just look at Liam like they had the plague. And
Space
right?
Ranger,
Yeah.
right?
So I started just looking for ways to sort of bridge that. Like, how can we know sign language, Liam knows sign language. How can we bring sign language to our community?
Yeah.
And my sister Emily had just left LA. So I was alone there in that apartment.
Oh, dang.
And moved to Virginia. Couldn't be further away.
Wow.
And we were just talking every day and crying and missing each other. And one day she called me and said, I think we should make a video for kids about music. And because we come from a very musical family. And I was like, yes, but no, we need to teach sign language. And so she was in Virginia. I was in LA. We would fly to Utah, got some friends and family to help. It took us a year to make the first video. So when you first see Alex, he's 2.
Yeah.
And by the end of the show, he's 3 because we're doing it very part-time on our Southwest credit cards. And we each had one, and we'd book our flights and then we'd pay them off and we'd do it again. So it was supposed to be just a show to teach the first basic science. It's called My First Science, that first episode. And then we put it on Amazon and the reviews were astounding. And people kept saying, we want more, we want more. And then we had the opportunity to be on the Today Show. And they said, when are you filming more? A little bit of business advice. If the Today Show asks you whether or not you are filming more, plan on it, make that happen.
Right.
So they came out and told the story against the odds. These 2 siblings that couldn't communicate, Lucy because she's nonverbal, Liam because they're deaf, and how sign language brought them together and touched on signing time. And that really, it tripled our sales. We were selling like $200 a month. So tripling is like 600.
Hey.
But it just grew. It was word of mom, word of dad, there wasn't Facebook yet. There was just Amazon reviews and like Yahoo groups and like digest email groups, things like that, where families were connecting. And truly it had a life of its own. Parents just kept talking about it, and we just kept making them.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I know when like I said, when I met you, I didn't even have kids yet. So I wouldn't have never even had the need to have had them. Right. And as soon as I knew, I was like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing.
So
get my signing time videos. Yeah.
Awesome. But it's so great because you knew there was a resource too,
100%.
We created it because we needed it. We needed it for our community. We needed it from our family. I don't even know, like 40 nieces and nephews now, and back then there were 5, so
right.
In 2006, 2008, I was nominated for an Emmy because we were on PBS, so Outstanding Performer in a Children's Series. And it all just felt unreal. It was like, I'm just a lame mom. Like, I'm just a lame mom who does this part-time while I'm, pushing a wheelchair and signing and trying to get through the educational systems and things like that, So it was very surreal. Even still, Oh my gosh, last week our coffee maker broke. We have this, we call it the $1 million coffee maker because it saved us $1 million in drive-through coffee.
I got one of those.
Yeah. So it broke and I called the company and I was like, kind of being not like snarky, but I was like, and it's like making coffee, but it's like weak ass tea, and I needed my coffee and I had a splitting headache. And so I'm talking to the guy and he asks me my email. And so I tell him and he's like, wait, is this Rachel? Like, is this Rachel from Signing Time? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh my God. And he's in New York. He's like, oh my gosh, I have a daughter who has Down syndrome and we met you 4 years ago. And I'm like, it's so bizarre to me still to be recognized.
Small world.
I'm a lay mom who just made a couple, like seriously, but then Aaron, my husband was like, Rachel, like, I don't think you can fathom your reach in 22 years.
Seriously.
And literally 2 days before I was at a doctor's appointment. And I was chatting with the doctor and she's like, well, what do you do? And she's kind of assuming I'm a stay-at-home mom because I'm talking about my kid with, physical disabilities. And I said, well, I'm a business owner is usually what I say. And she's like, oh, can I ask? I said, children's media. I teach sign language. And she says, oh my gosh, that's who you are. I have a 6-year-old. But that was twice in 1 week now post-COVID going out in the world. And it's crazy to go, it's people have run into it or they've been asked, oh, your kid has autism. Have you tried Signing Time? Oh, is your kid deaf? No, we're just using Signing Time. It's been enough of parenting and cultural movement that I still don't assume anyone knows who I am, like on a day-to-day basis. I just am like,
being you out in the world.
Yeah, just doing what I do. But it is nice. It's nice to have created something that people appreciate that deeply.
Absolutely.
And I know from, raising my own kids, when we've found something that works, it's life-changing. Mm-hmm. It is life-changing to finally find the chair that works for Lucy, right? Mm-hmm. How many chairs I've purchased, all of them. But to find the one that's like, that one's, that'll totally work. And then you're just compelled to share that with other people and hope it works for them too. So I think that's really been the heart of Signing Time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I can't imagine how many people, like you said, I think that it's probably unfathomable to think of how many families that you've been able to bridge that communication, that relationship building, that trust. Yeah. Which is so important. So 1,000 million hugs to you from all of those people, I'm sure. And that's just amazing. Let's talk about things that have changed since then, because I'm sure everyone noticed. We were speaking of Liam, and I'm sure you all remembered Leah. So let's talk about that, because I think it's fascinating and wonderful to support our kids' needs in every way possible. I think that supporting human rights and human needs is the essential thing to be a parent and a friend, a neighbor, a human. So
it's interesting because with disabilities, you look at what children go through who have them, the parents go through. And a lot of times, whether you recognize it or not, I really was in a place of like, I don't want this to be our reality. Like, I wish Lucy could walk. And every time I would load that wheelchair, I was bugged and like, this is so hard. And, but she knew that. Even if I didn't say it out loud, even if I said it in my head all the time, oh my God, this is so hard. This is so hard. I'm basically saying that Lucy made our life hard. And, I did a lot of work. On this because I realized that I was wasting 2 perfectly good lives, mine and hers, wishing that it was different. Mm-hmm. It's not different. And believe me, if Lucy could get up and walk to make me happy or to what she would, and she can't, right? So there's a Byron Katie quote: when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
And that struck me in such a way, hearing that, like, oh my gosh, like, this is Lucy, this is me, this is our family, this is our life. So then same thing with deafness. You can think, oh my gosh, I wish my kid wasn't deaf. Life would be so much easier if my kid wasn't deaf. And a lot of parents pretend their kid isn't deaf, or they get them a cochlear implant so they won't be as deaf, or hearing aids, or you just do anything. You do everything you can to have them fit into that normalcy of, what everybody else is doing. Mm. And then you look at that from an LGBTQ angle, and you take all of that, I take all of that and go, well, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with anything that has gone on in my life. There's nothing wrong with being in a wheelchair. We knew Lucy would be in a wheelchair. We made that choice. So why am I pretending I didn't, or hoping it was going to turn out differently? Liam is deaf. Liam has a cochlear implant. Liam has a hearing dog. Liam has all kinds of support that, we thought might help them throughout life. And then it's just like all of it, the identity, who you are, what you can or can't do. And then you pop in LGBTQ, and I'm not saying that's like a disability. I'm saying that's like who you are, right? Yeah. So deafness is so part of who Liam is. And then to identify, or to be, not just identify, but go, oh my gosh, what else? Who else I am? And how brave it is to say it, right? To live your truth. And it's not just, oh, I have this kind of attraction. It's like, wow, this is like, I don't line up with the typical, I don't line up with that. So how do I line up? And so for us, we were just like, that makes no difference, right? Like, it makes no difference. No matter what it is you're dealing with as our child, you can count on us loving and supporting you.
Yeah. 100%.
And it took us some time to get the pronouns, and took Liam some time to figure it out too. I
sure.
think, and then there's this other side of it that's pretty interesting, because for 22 years, I've been talking about my family. I've been sharing about my family, sharing what we go through, the ups and downs, surgeries, things. And then the kids grow up and they're adults, and they can tell their own story. And their story isn't the same story as my story. And there was a point where Liam was like, I don't want you to talk about me. Like, I don't know what you're saying about me, Mom. And I am uncomfortable with you talking about me and my life, because it's through my filter.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting thing too, is to go, what is it that people who know and love Signing Time want to know? What can I share that is personal and helpful, but doesn't violate my adult children's privacy and information? And there have been times I'm like, I should just retire. I should just stop. Like, this is, it is what it is. And people who are very into the non-binary, transgender, like they have really educated themselves, they'll reach out to me and say, should we not watch Signing Time because it's using Liam's dead name? And I'm like, this is hard. I don't know. I don't know the answer yet. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I'm willing to admit, I don't know.
Yeah. How do they feel about that? Did you tell them?
They said that they do not want to be associated with that little girl in purple. And man, I sure took it personally at first. Like, I couldn't even get that it was about them. I was like crying and like, this has been our whole lives, and like, oh my God, and like felt so rejected. And Liam kept going, Mom, this isn't about you. This isn't about you. And I'm like, how can it not be about me? So it's
I love that you said that. I think that's so important. Really is though, because I'll share something that happened to me. And that was when we, had the diagnosis of autism, didn't know anything. And I used to say, and everyone knows it, and I used to say this, I don't believe this anymore, so nobody beat me up about it. Right. I used to say, oh, it's okay to feel like devastated. It's okay to grieve over this idea of the life you thought you were going to have. Yeah. Then I had the opportunity to have the most amazing autistic trans male on my show, and he wanted and shared with me and wanted me to share with everyone that when he heard those types of sentences out of his parents' mouth, they devastated him. and they broke his heart, and they gave him unempowered thoughts. And from that day forward, I swore, and I will never ever again condone that kind of language. Now it's okay to feel overwhelmed, because that's a real thing, and that can still be challenging and be ugly, but not be hurtful to someone.
Yep. Like I said, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. So you can wish your kid isn't LGBTQ. Okay, but they are. You can wish your kid could walk and they can't. You could wish your kid was neurotypical, but they're not. And then you just spend your life in some BS alternate parallel reality. Wishing your life was different. And it's like, you're missing the present. You're missing what is. You're missing the day-to-day. And like I said, it can be so hard with disabilities. It was hard with 2 different disabilities, and so different in school for each of the kids, and so different the advocacy that was required, and that there's a deaf community, but there's not a wheelchair or spina bifida or CP community with their own art and there's so much. And also going I don't want our whole lives to be about disabilities either. Can we just go on vacation and have a good time and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and pretend for it's so weird because you can't help it. When we got married, I thought we'd have a couple kids and life would be just what I imagined. But
camp and work out and have fun.
I could be a really good soccer mom. Awesome. That was my plan. I'm going to be an awesome soccer mom. But then you look at what life gives you, and that really is life. I don't know why I had such a boring idea of what my life would be like. I never imagined deafness or wheelchairs, but you want to spice stuff up.
Yeah, right.
Throw in some extra languages and some assistive devices. But just to look at that and go, why don't we come up with that? I thought people who had kids with disabilities somehow knew, I'm definitely going to have kids. You don't know. No. I promise you. Let me just tell you, you don't know. And that wasn't even in my realm of possibility. And so it just, if we could, I think maybe nowadays people are more aware, oh yeah, it's just numbers.
Yeah.
It's just numbers. It's not personal either. I didn't do anything wrong, and Aaron didn't do anything wrong. We just had the egg that we had, and we had
that's right,
all the stuff we had that came together and created what we have.
Oh, and that's so amazing. And Lucy still at home?
Lucy is at home. Lucy's 21, and Lucy's done some, before COVID, some community college, has volunteered at our local aquarium, has volunteered at our museums. It's really trying to figure out what's a great work. And that's been the hardest thing, as Lucy is now an adult. And it's well, I could do that job, or I could, but I walk into every store and look at how accessible or not it is for a wheelchair. And, she's so smart and she wants to be a writer. We went to Voc Rehab to get support with, getting a job. And Lucy said, I want to be a writer. They're well, we can't help you with that. And she's then what's the point? Yeah.
I'm scratching my head with that one. That makes me crazy.
We have some, also look into that stuff when your kids are young, look into Voc Rehab, find out the exact age for Social Security benefits, things like that. Really, it's coming. We talk about time flies. And when Liam went to college 5 years, and the first 2.5 years, we just paid out of pocket, and Liam had different scholarships and things. But this last 2.5 years, completely covered by Utah's state vocational rehab.
Wonderful.
And Liam was in school in Rochester, New York. So it's a big deal. And it's important to make sure that if you have support people in your state, still people you can contact. Not the school district never said anything to us about it. And so Voc Rehab was wow, that's crazy. They didn't mention it. But for Lucy, they said, well, if Lucy knew what she wanted what career she wanted, we would, and Lucy could take a full load of classes, we'd pay for that. Well, she can't take a full load of classes.
Yeah.
And she wants to be a writer, but you can't go, in Utah, a writer makes this much per year. So it has to be I want to be a dental hygienist, something very specific. And that's most kids who don't have disabilities aren't there yet. When they're graduating high school. So we've had some good, some bad, some interesting. Just make sure that's on your radar when your kids are 14, 15, 16, because it can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And the lists are long. I mean, I think that we had just maybe 2 years ago, I had contacted DSPD and they were telling me 16 years that we're on wait.
Yes. In case people don't know, in Utah, Division of Services for People with Disabilities, DSPD. And when I moved here, as I met parents who had kids in wheelchairs, they said, "Oh my God, get on the list." That was the first thing anyone said, get on the list, get on the list. And I'm like, what's this list? So I looked it up. Right? I didn't know what it was, but everybody said, get on the list. So I put Lucy on the list and they interviewed us, whatever. And I forgot about it. Lucy was 2. And then we moved here. We moved from the Avenues to Cottonwood Heights. And right after we moved in, and of course, right after we'd paid off her most recent power chair, like, $5,000 or something, I get a call and they're like, "Hi, this is so-and-so." And I was just sort of bugged. Like, I'm bugged a lot, let's just say. So I'm not as nice as I am on signing time. And I was like, "Who is this?" And they're like, "No, for Lucy." And I was like, "I don't know who you are. I don't know what this is." And they're like, "The list." I'm like, "Oh, holy crap, the list? Like, this is the list." And it was only 4 years. So this is 2002 to 2006. So they came over. "Do you have any unpaid medical bills?" they say. And I'm like, "No, I just paid $5,000 off a wheelchair." And it was like incremental, but I was like, I just like things to be done. Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, had you not done that, we would have paid for it." But you don't know when you're getting off the dumb list.
No.
So anyway, what the list ends up meaning, at least for Lucy, we had about $6,000 a year from the state for many years to go toward respite care, people coming in to assist, which was good when I was traveling and the kids were in like elementary, junior high, and high school. Now it's, now that Lucy's graduated, it's about $12,000 a year. And instead of using it for support, I mean, it's still support. We have somebody who comes in and cleans. Like, I don't have to clean, right? Yay. I can be with my kid. They come in, they clean, they can cook, they can shop, they can do things like that. And so it just gives us a little bit of a break. Lucy would rather be with us, Yeah. And then if there's like random big stuff we need, we can put in and be like, we need this kind of a ramp, and they can help out. But wonderful. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. And then with COVID, it's been crazy. There's nobody. There's nobody who'll come into your home. And so they changed it in the last 2 years so that parents can be a caregiver and get paid. And I think that's just special because of COVID. And so that's, if you can't get people to come in, you can't hire people right now.
Yeah.
Kind of like, well, thank you for taking care of your kid. It's so weird, but
right. It feels like for us, yeah, right. That is the list. It feels like for us when it was so interesting when COVID happened, because same thing, excuse me, we had like in-home therapies for DJ, and Anna was going to school. Of course, she came home. Now I'm homeschooling both of them. And then when my husband, and we had found out of maybe 4 years prior to COVID happening that he is also on the spectrum. And so I started to recognize and realize, okay, well, I make these accommodations for him. I know this about him. I see this pattern in him. I can accommodate my kids just the same way I have this man that I love, And it was so amazing what happened in the turnaround and the flow of ease, the non-fighting about everything, just like bedtimes, eating times, like all of these different social times that were on society's calendar of times to do, they don't fit our schedules. They don't fit our lifestyles. And when I freed my children of those time frames, our life blossomed. And happiness in wanting to spend time together as a family. And I think our family unit grew so much closer over COVID. And we started seeing our once hardly communicative son become almost, fully. He is, every second he sees us, "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I love you guys." Those were things, he's 12. And those were things he hadn't been saying regularly up until 2 years, in this last 2 years.
Wow.
And those things are moving, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, as far one regret that I have is putting Lucy in the mainstream schooling. She should have been in a Montessori program. She should have been in something that's so much less restrictive and less busy work and less worksheets. I was just spent, and we'd moved we'd moved for Liam, in California. The services were horrible. And then they opened a charter school here in Utah, a bilingual bicultural school. And so it was like, oh, we can get out of LA, we can go back home. And we have a great educational spot for Liam. But, Lucy really bore the brunt of, in some ways, needing special ed services, also needing to be mainstream, needing that positive peer reinforcement, but also dealing with a level of anxiety that most people can't fathom. And so it took years for us to sort out that anxiety piece. I kept going, she's going to grow out of this. She's going to grow out of these tantrums or behavior things. Mm-hmm. And then just realizing, I think she was in 5th grade at our local school. She'd forgotten something the first day, and I was coming to school to bring it. And I get to school and I can hear her as I head toward the 5th grade hallway screaming and crying. And I thought, this is the first day of school in 5th grade. She doesn't want to do this. Like, she doesn't want to behave this way. Yeah. Maybe she really can't control it. That was like the first time I had the thought. And before it was like, come on, when are we going to grow out of this? Or when, like she has really sensitive brain stuff, where she still startles like an infant if there's a loud sound. And it wasn't till then that I was like, wow, this is its own piece.
Sensory.
This is its own piece. Let's jump into how we can help. And honestly, she's now 21, and we're just getting it under, medical cannabis has changed her life.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad you found something that would. Yeah. I mean, we tried CBD gummies with DJ, and it had the opposite effect. Unfortunately, it made him violent and aggressive. And we realized, oh, dang. Sorry, buddy.
Brains. It also depends. Like if you get, I couldn't believe that Lucy was the first person I knew in Utah to have a green card for cannabis.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I was like, holy cow, this is so crazy. Because my 14-year-old self was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like stressed out. My parents are going to find out, right? For real.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, can't even. That's another story. Well, they put me in rehab at 14 in a residential rehab facility because I'd smoked pot like 5 times.
Oh my gosh.
And I was on the fast track to addiction. So
of course.
Unreal. Anyway, so that's my family background about it. But as far as, I really, at this point, I'm like, wow, I could be a real resource for families whose kids are nonverbal, who have spasticity and who have pain and things. If you got CBD just from a CBD place, like a pharmacy, it's not the same. It's not the same as being able to get it from a dispensary. Just heads up. You don't have to, we had done things, driven to LA or Vegas. I mean, everywhere around
of
Utah,
course, right? Wendover, here it comes.
Not that far away. So we were able to try a lot of different things, and she's so cute. She has a gummy that helps her sleep. She has a gummy that helps her just be able to go to a doctor's appointment and not freak out. And we cut them into tiny little quarters, so they're microdosing, and it's been
good for her.
I can't even tell you. I cannot even tell you. I mean, having a service dog, having a canine companion, and having medical cannabis are 2 of the biggest life-changing
positive effects.
Yes, in the last 26 years.
Wow. And that's wonderful to know that too, especially with the service dogs. I have an autism advocates group, and one of our members is a local golden healer service dogs. Plug for my girls in there. And he's amazing. And him and his foundation, the things that they, when they provide a family or a dog, a family, I mean, they do so much work.
Unreal.
It's incredible how these dogs can be trained in such sensitive, training.
I had no idea that dogs could be this awesome.
Yeah.
So Lucy's canine companion for Independence is named Willow, and Willow has been with us for 9 years. So she's 11 now, and she just retired last year. So now she's our pet, and we're filling out the applications for a successor dog. So we'll get another 2-year-old puppy who's totally trained. But we kind of we weren't really dog people. Yeah. And so now I'm like, what are we going to do when Willow goes? Like, I can't. Okay.
Don't even go there.
I really can't. Before I was see people Facebook post about their animals that pass. I'm like, oh, please. No, I will be
now you get it.
mourning for 6 months at least, right?
Yeah.
So we thought maybe having another dog will help that transition. And Lucy's older now, and I think anyway, it's pretty cool. And then Liam's hearing dog is a CCI dog as well, and alerts Liam to different sounds and things, and it's
amazing. Like,
it's amazing.
How do they train these dogs to do this stuff? We'll have to have the dog train around again.
Right. And Canine Companion, CCI.org, they are a nonprofit. It cost us nothing for either dog. We had to go train. We had to, Lucy, Aaron, and I flew to San Diego for 2 weeks, and they had dorms, and we lived there and worked with the dogs. And the hearing dogs were and Liam lived on the East Coast. So we went to Florida, me and Liam, for 2 weeks and trained, and it's amazing. I mean, they estimate dogs are worth like $50,000, just the amount of time and effort put into them. And
wow, that's cool. Such a huge resource. I didn't even know that. We paid $1,000. We were paying $1,500 for our service dog, which is nothing. But we just had like a personal trainer that had been helping us. And she said, I can do this for you. I could help you guys out. But DJ and the dog just didn't bond. So it didn't work out. And now I have a great walking dog that is good walking.
Yeah. Because even with Canine Companions, they still retain ownership. So you're like sharing the dog, but we pay for, they can take the dog. That's the main thing. Like if we're any kind of neglect or, we have to do veterinarian checkups every year that they send to them. Now that Willow has retired, we're adopting her. She is ours. It still costs us nothing. And they won't take her back. But what's interesting is Willow and Lucy had a really hard time bonding because of Lucy's power chair. And so Lucy's like in a 250-pound box all the time.
Yeah.
And Willow is like, she will, if you give her the command, she'll come to Lucy, but she's not like, oh, I want to hang out with Lucy, because that thing's intimidating for adults, toes. So now that Lucy's older, I think we'll get matched a little bit better. We're nervous about dogs anyway. Like, we're not dog people. I don't want a dog jumping, sniffing, barking, and she does not bark or sniff or jump. She's awesome.
Amazing.
But we could definitely use a little less aloofness, I think.
Yeah. Oh, her old age, huh?
I know.
Oh, bless her heart. Well, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that resource. I think that's fantastic to know and everything. Well, I have just had the most amazing conversation with you. Thank you so much for catching up with me. And I'd love to meet up and have lunch sometime and
do it now.
Give you a hug.
I know.
Yay.
Have a coffee or something.
Do it. I love it. And if anyone wants to find signing times, I'm sure, give us your links and website or anything.
So, we stream on mysigningtime.com. It's a monthly subscription. And then if you know of anyone who has a newly diagnosed deaf child, I have with the nonprofit that we have is the Signing Time Foundation, and you can find the resources at mydeafchild.org. You'll see me there welcoming you to the world of deafness. And then for children who have deafness and who are in the age of early intervention, so under 3 years of age, we offer free sign language classes online to families through mydeafchild.org. So if you know somebody, send them there. Of course, as a nonprofit, I'm always drumming up sponsors and connections. So if you have a business or are connected to a business that has a philanthropic arm that would be interested in helping us share sign language with families who need it, you'll be able to find me there as well. So,
oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so much fun. It's been a pleasure. And I'll be excited to air this in probably a month or so. And after we get through all this great autism awareness and acceptance and education.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And we'll be in touch.
Okay.
The SJ Child Show, produced by SJ Childs LLC. Thanks to all my viewers and listeners for your continued love and support. And thank you to the guests of the SJ Child Show. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you to everyone who continues to support me. Go to my social media, and let's build this community together through kindness, compassion, and education for others. Hi, and thanks for joining the S.J. Childs Show. The S.J. Childs Show brings value to families through education and resources. But the S.J. Childs Show isn't just about me. It's about us as a community. Join me as we help educate and support our community, help bring kindness and love and inclusion to all. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. I really appreciate all the support from all of the viewers and listeners, and I just want to let you know I want you to join me on this journey. Come and follow my social media, and let's do this together. Enjoy the show. Introducing Autism Vehicle Home Safety Kits, Emergency Responder, alert stickers, personal profiles with autism needs and a communication board, masks and earplugs, keeping families and emergency responders educated and safe. Get yours today at sjchilds.org. Helping autism families impact their child's developmental milestones through home relocation, community resources, and home designs. For every 3 homes Natalie Castro sells, she funds and designs a sensory room for a community center servicing individuals with autism. She volunteers to coach law enforcement, first responders, and ER nurses how to have a positive experience for individuals on the autism spectrum.